Hey, I'm Christina.
And I'm Matt.
And this is New Ways Podcast. Wow, Matt didn't laugh during that one. We're having a day today.
We are having a day.
Last week we talked about stress and the effects that it has on the body as well as your mental and the people around you. Today we're kind of going to extend that episode a little bit and talk about de-escalation of stress, like what works for us, different methods you can use. So before we get into it, is there anything you want to vent about or share, get off your chest today?
No, I think I'm like today was a good day. I was looking forward to just like doing actually this podcast today because I was like, I didn't sleep last night. So I was just like in a mood where I was like, man, I'm just like ready to like come in and do this, like work on this, talk about stuff. And so it's more just like everything was sort of leading up to this like literal hour of just being like, okay, now I get to do this. So this is like the good part of my day. You know, so it was just, I was just looking forward to something, just like being able to like sit and do this. Like it's, you know, it's our like passion project that we've been working on for, you know, a couple months now. So it's just now I've been able to really sit down and like create these every week. I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to have a good Monday, or even if I don't have a good Monday, it's going to be a good Monday because I get to work on this.
Yeah.
Film on Mondays. So yeah. Anyways.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Feelings mutual. Like I look forward to this. I actually prepare most of the time all day for it. I have like my little ritual, which is all self-care stuff, but love that.
Nice.
I'll share my little ritual at one point, not today, but something I wanted to kind of share was just my weekend. I was going through it, man. Like you might not have realized it because I intentionally like distanced myself a little bit, but I was going through it.
Yeah.
And I just want to share because maybe people can relate. If not, whatever, it's me venting about some stuff. So I saw you on Friday, I remember. And Friday night, I was feeling a little off, but I'm like, whatever. Just went to sleep. I woke up and I was just like in the F this type of mood. I did not want to do anything. I kind of just wanted to wallow in my own self-pity about nothing. I had no idea why I was feeling this way, but I did have obligations. So I went to my obligations, and you know how you, especially because I'm really big on like, stay true to how you're feeling and who you are. Don't obviously be a jerk to people, but if you're just not feeling it, like tell people you're not feeling it. I did my best to still stay in myself, but be a part of what was going on. And towards the afternoon, it subsided a little bit, but I still wasn't 100% of my typical me.
Yeah.
And then the next day on Sunday, I was like, I'm just going to wallow in my own self-pity. Like, I don't know what's going on, but anybody who's been through the ringer sometimes, or maybe it is just me, where sometimes I get those depressed modes. And I'm like, this is, hi, familiar old friend. Let me just welcome you a little bit. It's kind of comfortable because I was so used to feeling that way for a little bit. So I moved some things around, allowed myself to kind of just be depressed in a way for the first few hours in the morning. And towards the afternoon, I'm like, you know what? Life's beautiful again. Let's go. Nothing really changed. I just gave myself the time and the space to like feel my feels. And I feel like that was so important. And then later on, I finally felt like talking with people. So I like talked to my friend a little bit. And he was even like, you know what, maybe you were just, because he's feeling the same way, he's going through some life changes. He's like, maybe you're just like, in the spiritual world, we say like, you have to mourn your old self in a way. And sometimes if you don't know what's going on, it could be potentially like you're just building and you're growing. And in a way, your body is like letting go of all that previous stuff. So I don't know what it was, but I just wanted to share because it's like, I didn't take the space for me on Saturday and it dragged into my Sunday. But after I gave myself a few hours, I'm like, hell yes, let's go. Like, I'm chill now. So, but no, I was going through it and I don't know why. And it's okay. Because what I realized too is, and I feel like sometimes people need to know this, is just because you're having a day and it's a familiar day does not mean that's who you are anymore. And it doesn't have to carry on once it's gone. It's not who you actually are. It's just what you're feeling in that moment. So like acknowledge it. And a lot of times you'll move forward. But no, I was going through it. And people usually are like, you're always so happy. You have down days. And I'm like, hell yes, I do. So I don't know what a lot of times, because I'm very good at now controlling my life and making sure I only have positive stuff, but that doesn't mean I don't have emotions.
Yeah.
So that's me like going off a little bit.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's completely valid, right? And
yeah.
I mean, what you're going through is like something I think that so many people can resonate with, because it's like we all have those days that you just wake up and you're like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? Like,
I just want to curl in a ball and be left alone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just being able to sit there and recognize that that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to do that. It is beyond okay to feel that way, and knowing that, recognizing what those feelings are, and then being able to sit with them, not only being able to sit with them, but being able to also handle it in the way that you did. So also, I know that you talked to me about some of the things that you did to sort of handle those things.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk to the audience kind of about some of the things that actually like work for you, and some of the things that kind of really helped sort of work through sort of like half-day funk in a way?
Yeah. So also too, we can kind of relate this also to like things that work for us when it comes to de-escalating our stress. So my funk day, that wasn't stress, because like right now, everything in my life, I know it's such a huge blessing and I am busy, but I know my stress response, that wasn't a stress response. That was more of like an emotional type of like, what is going on? I can't pinpoint it. And that's when I'm like, you need space to kind of just sit with yourself and be like, I don't know what's going on. It's okay. I'm just going to feel the feels and release them, because also like, you know how there's that book, The Body Keeps Score, a lot of times too, if you don't acknowledge just what you're feeling, even if you don't know what it is, it carries on to the next day. It carries on to things in the future. But there are days I wake up. Typically, I can tell it's when I'm stressed, because my nervous system is definitely haywire. I'm running around trying to do all these things. I get a lot of times like a pressure headache in my brain just from thinking about all the things I have to do, or I replay situations in my head so many times. So there is a difference between like just emotional states and the stress response. But there is a bunch of things that I do to calm myself down when I am stressed. Right now, my go-to oftentimes is just mindfulness. So mindfulness can mean so many things, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit too. We'll talk about the different mindfulness practices that I do, but specifically for me to target the stress, I have to know where it's coming from. So I ask myself, I'm just very curious. I'm like, what is causing me the most stress? Why am I rushing to do this thing? What's living rent-free in my head? Because once you can pinpoint what the stressor is, then you can decide if it belongs to you or not. You know, because sometimes people hold stressors from other people, like their reactions or things that they're putting on them. But it's like, that's not something that like I actually have to be doing. That's not something that I should be getting upset about. Like, you're causing that reaction in me. So I just like to think, is this something that really resonates with me? Is it something I'm stressed about because I'm doing it for me? Or am I stressed about it because somebody else is kind of making me stressed about it? A lot of times, if I realize that somebody else is causing the stress in me, I calm myself down, and then I focus on things that I can do. Slow down, definitely. I focus on things that I can do to make that task a little easier on myself, as well as realize then if it is me, I'm just like, wow, I've been stressed. I've been putting too much on my plate. I am worried about things all the time. I take a step back to just clear my head and be like, right now I'm worrying about me and nothing else. So meditate in a way where I have now trained myself to really let my mind go. I know it's hard for people, especially new meditators. They're like, I have all these thoughts in my head. I can't get rid of it. And it took me a while too to train myself to actually be very like clear-minded, not have any thoughts. And one of Michael Singer's books actually really helped me. He's like, think of your thoughts like passing balloons. Like, they're not your thoughts. You can't control them. It's that little voice in your head. Like, just watch them pass by. So now for me, the main thing that I do to de-stress is like mindfulness, meditation, slowing down. Because I realized like when you're stressed, you're usually in a hyperactive state. And just by me learning to slow down, that helps so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think too, is like you talked about, like in a way, sort of self-actualization in the form of it. Because the big thing too is that when you can recognize too when you're feeling those moments. I think a lot of people, you know, especially in the world of therapy, really struggle with being able to recognize those moments. And you're like, why am I feeling this way? What's going on? You know, I don't know. Like, I have this huge pain in my chest. Don't feel well, right? My head hurts, not sleeping, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so being able to come back in and then, you know, say, hey, like, you're experiencing all of these symptoms. You're experiencing all of these things because of this, or because of, you know, a traumatic event, or because of maybe that there's too many things on your plate, or you're actually not sleeping because you're actually working 16-hour days and it's so exhausting. But at the same time, you're not able to sleep because of the stress you're dealing from those 16 hours. And so that can also be like such a huge, huge thing as well. I know for me that when I kind of look at de-stressing, I used to be terrible at it. And honestly, I'm still not the greatest. And literally, I'm a therapist.
Really quick, elaborate a little bit on terrible. Because I know the last episode you said you exercised. And compared to mine, which was benders, I was like, yeah, that's healthy. So what do you mean by share a little bit about that?
I mean, like, I used to, okay, so.
You would just not take care of it.
No, I mean, like, I would just sit with it. I would just sit there. I would just go quiet.
Okay.
And that was a big thing. Like, you know, oftentimes I would just sort of sit with those thoughts in my head, and I would let those thoughts narrate themselves. And I would kind of let them I would literally I would give them the energy to allow them to have their own voice in my head.
Not you would stress about situations that never actually happened or weren't real?
Well, no. I mean, they definitely were real, and some of them were, the stress was real.
Yeah.
The feelings were real, but I put too much emphasis on them, and it's to the point where I literally almost gave them, you know, sort of that way, sort of that voice in my head that just sort of ran a wire, you know, or ran way more than it should have. And then being able to hold that constantly while being stressed about things that were currently coming on. So it's kind of just like, it was just more was consistent being plated. You know, it's like you were holding extra food from, you know, if you think about from like a metaphor standpoint, it's like you're holding yesterday's dinner on your plate and you're still receiving tonight's dinner. And then you're consistently holding the next day's dinner and the next day's dinner after that. So it's just, for me, it was just kind of like such an absolute build up to the point where then you're like, oh, this is too much. And you just kind of drop it. And you just sort of walk away. Right. And so for me, I just often would just kind of drop it, let go, and I'd just walk away. I'd be like, oh God, I'm not going to deal with this right now. Just, you know, leave. But then obviously, as you know, I realized that the more responsibility I took on, the more I wanted to take care of myself, the more you and I discussed about it, the more I realized I was like, if I actually want to create success for myself in the future, if I want to create a healthy standard for myself, if I want to be a good version of me, not just for myself, but for the people around me, I knew I had to make that change. So that related to being able to outreach to communities that I was previously not a part of. So currently right now, that would be going on hikes. Often I have a group of friends that I go on like hikes.
Yeah.
You're a part of that friend group.
Love that.
So Christine and I have a group of friends that we actually go on hikes with often, weekly. And then on top of that, I'm also part of the West Hollywood Masters swimming program. Because I was a swimmer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought we knew everything about each other.
No, I just started it. It was something that I've just started doing, and it's huge. I didn't realize, like, I had kind of like a cut. I had a huge sort of, you know, not a huge, but I had, you know, some trauma from being a swimmer, you know, my whole life. And so it was a sport that never really sat well with me in my early and mid 20s. And so now I was like, you know what, I'm going to really try and see if I can, you know, do this sport again on my own terms, not competitively, just for fun. And I actually absolutely loved it, and really got to meet some incredible people. And it's just been an absolute delight being able to be a part of a community where sort of you find sort of that common ground and common knowledge. And that alone is such and again, I know I'm going on a tangent about, you know, sort of what de-stress looks like, but in a way, that sort of holistic way of like finding those communities and finding those outlets have become the most impactful thing for me, because it gives me perspective on also what other people are going through, because they're also like, oh, fuck, man, that was, I know exactly how you feel. Like, I hated having to, you know, spend, you know, 15 hours, 20 hours a week in the pool. I know exactly what you're going through. I was burnt out as well. And then I rejoined back and, you know, started doing that sport again in my 30s, you know, And so whatever it is, like it's being able to really sit down with others and kind of hear their stories as much as your own, and recognizing that you're not alone in those moments. So that was an interesting way, sort of like the biggest way to find de-stressors is community, and then self-advocating for yourself. So
no, I love that. And isn't it crazy too that when you just talk to people about it, for one, it's very therapeutic for you. Like all that is not inside you anymore. It's not building up like a bomb ready to explode, you know? But it's cool because when you talk to people about what you're going through, like you said, a lot of times people have gone through the same stuff. On top of it, now they might introduce you to something also that can help you just be like, you helped me from venting, and now you're giving me this other tool that I might also fall in love with as well, or like make me calmer, or it's just a new exciting thing. That's why I'm like, you never know what little hidden gems you're going to get just from like speaking your truth, being you, and vulnerable, to be honest with you. On top of that too, I love how you're saying it's something that you genuinely enjoy that de-stresses you, because I feel like there's such a stigma sometimes where people are like, I'm stressed, right? And let alone I'm guilty of being a part of your traditional like de-stressors. You know, they're like, go get a massage, go get acupuncture, like go clean your house. You know what I mean? There's the typical ways that you do it, but I'm like, anything that's fun and can get your mind off the thing and make you realize how amazing life is and give a little bit of gratitude to you, as well as like endurance up, like get your body moving, your heart pumping. Those are also amazing ways to de-stress. It doesn't have to be your traditional ways. On that note too, like nature, it's proven that people who spend more time outside are happier. I think I was reading a study where it said, I want you to guess too, what do you think the happiest profession is?
Park ranger?
That's a good one.
Is it?
It's actually farmers. Like they did a study on the happiest type of people, and it was farmers. Also, too, there was recently, they did MRI studies of people's brains, and they named like a monk who meditates all the time, going back to your traditional type of de-escalation, but they named him like the happiest man in the world based on his brain chemistry.
Interesting.
Isn't that dope? Wow. Farmers and like monks.
I'm curious to know how they measured the search. I have thoughts, but no, it's cool. It's just I'm like,
you even said though too, getting in my convertible, coming here, you're like, I looked forward to it. My car is so therapeutic. I didn't get it because it looks cool. It definitely does, but I got it because it's makes me so happy.
Yep. No, okay. So I'll just for perspective on this, I literally was telling Christine in the car because I was having a stressful like weekend. Wasn't stressful. It was fine. I had a great weekend. It was just like,
I realized life's actually good. They're all good problems to have.
They're all good problems to have. I think I was just having some self-actualizations of some things that were going on in my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to like actually grow up a little bit.
Do adult things.
Yeah. And adult
you don't
things
actually have to do it. You don't. Nobody said you do, but you get to do it and you want to do it.
Correct.
So flipping that might make you a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. So they're adult things that I want to do, but they're scary, so I have to make them happen. Anyways, but that being said, no, I literally was telling you on our drive over here, I was like, after work, I get to go to Christina's house, and then I get to drink her tea. Oh my God, so good. And then we get to sit and chat about like what we're going to do with the podcast. And then we're going to get in our convertible. We're going to listen to the good music. And then we're going to get here. And that's like in my head, that's literally the plan I had to just like formulate it.
But that's something to look forward to. Yeah. And that's why I'm huge to something when I started transitioning into like this different phase in my life, which is more calm, definitely. More mindful, just more happier Christina, like joyful, energetic versus the other person I used to be that I've talked about a little bit. Gratitude was, and I know this is also overplayed a little bit, but was a huge one for me. Just what I really did was make a conscious effort. It's little things that turn into habits that turn into life-changing things, you know? So when I was starting, what I would do is, you know how I love to write on my mirrors because I'm like, you see it every single day then. So I took my Expo marker and I would write 4 or 5 things that I was grateful for on my mirror. And you would be surprised where it took me like a few minutes. And I've asked people to do this and they're like, I have nothing to be grateful for. And I'm like, ugh. It's literally that cup of coffee. It's literally the fact that you woke up today and you're not in a hospital bed. I tell people at work all the time, I'm like, I'm on the other side of the bed. Like just realizing the little things in life and how precious they actually are, romanticizing life a little bit, realizing all the good you actually have. And when you do that consistently, it might seem like nothing, but after a while, you hear me do it all the time. I name so many little things that I'm just so happy about. You'll catch me enjoying a sunset, like taking a moment of peace and breathing in the fresh air. Ever since I made the conscious decision to realize how lucky I am to have just the little things around me, is when I went from like, oh my gosh, like I have to do this with life. I'm stressed out about this. I'm not accomplishing this. This person relies on me, to things are actually okay. Like there's so much I am grateful for, and I wouldn't change my life for the world now, you know? So that's a little practice that's really helped me a lot, is just being mindful and journaling and knowing myself a little better and realizing that like you don't have to be stressed. On that note too, I can kind of get into another thing that really helped that I discovered in LA, which was breath work. Do you know what breath work is? I've talked about it briefly with you.
Yes. Yeah, you shared there was who's your friend?
Oh, Gianni. Yeah, we're going to have him on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I love him. He's such a nice person. He does it with his wife, Kiki, but a lot of other instructors too. So I'm curious, what have you heard kind of about it, if anything?
Breath work in general, or like the breath work you've done?
Both.
Okay, so the breath work you do is wild.
Yes.
That's like, I haven't done it yet, so I can't really speak. I don't want to speak too much on the breath work you've done, just from like the experiences you've shared, because when it comes from like more of a biased opinion, and I don't want that. I want to actually experience the breath work you've done.
I'll bring you with me. Yeah.
I'm a little terrified. No.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
No, it's good. It's good.
Intense though. Yeah.
It's intense. That's what I hear. Like people like cry. And
oh yeah, I'll get into it, but but you do. I'll get into my intense, like,
yeah,
I feel like I'm on drugs breath work in a little bit. You do a little bit yourself though. You do conscious breathing.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, and from the breath work that I know, you know, we do a lot, you know, obviously in the therapeutic world, we do a lot of meditative work, but it's more like on the lines of being able to, you know, sit in silence. Well, you know, often you will do a guided meditation, or like I will just verbalize just a meditation as well. Being able to kind of find those grounding things that really keep you happy, keep you whole, keep you well. And then, you know, on top of that, a big thing that I do with clients in the moment, and I do this even for myself when I'm feeling it, and you even reminded me of it today, because I walked through your door and you were like, Matt, just breathe sevens. And I was like, oh,
I remember saying that to you, because
like, oh, that's fine. Okay.
Before I made you get to the cold plunge, I'm like, breathe, Matt.
Oh yeah, no, and then I did a cold plunge, and it was like, it was just couldn't breathe. Anyways, that's gonna come out really weird on the video. I was doing audio, like I was doing breathing as well, and you just reminded me, because I was breathing weird, and you were like, just breathe sevens again. I'm like, okay, that's right.
Because you taught me that.
Because I did
the sevens. Yeah, I normally like the very like deep breaths to calm your nervous system. Like it's insane that if you just take a moment to, when you're stressed, and breathe deeply, like that's all you have to do to make you feel a little bit better, and you could probably make more rational decisions in the moment. But yeah, you specifically said 7 seconds in,
yeah,
and 7 seconds out.
7 seconds in breath.
Yeah.
Hold that breath for 7 seconds. And then release it for 7 seconds. I like the sevens if you have a healthy lung capacity to do it. If you're someone who maybe struggles holding your breath that long, then threes are great as well. In 3, hold 3, out 3. And truly, it actually just sort of really like kind of, in a way, sort of depletes the oxygen in your, you know, in your body just for like, you know, that, you know, literally 21 seconds. So being able to, you know, really sort of hold yourself, and it really kind of grounds you in a way, and really calms down whatever, you know, emotions or feelings you're having. I don't like flying on airplanes. I'm not a fan of airplanes, never have been, probably never will be. That being said, when I breathe sevens, it's super, super grounding, especially in like moments when you feel that tinglingness in your hand, heaviness in your chest, you know, that either heaviness in your head or a super, you know, lightheaded feeling as well. You know, whatever kind of are sort of the physical symptoms of those panic attacks and feelings of massive amounts of stress and anxiety. That's something to really, really help ground in the moment.
Yeah. So I don't suffer from extreme anxiety that much anymore, but even it's crazy because when you actually just listen to, like, you feel the feels of your body and what's going on. Like, I started practicing those sevens. Before it was just 1 or 2 deep breaths, but when I started doing that, like, you can physically feel your entire body just being like mellow out. It's like an ocean wave. It's just crashing down and you're good. You're chill for a second. So I encourage people to definitely try that.
Yeah.
On the different end, I don't even know what it's called, to be honest with you, but I do more of an intense, long breath work type of thing. Typically, it's a 3-stage breath. So as humans, we've just naturally adapted to, we don't breathe adequately anymore. We don't. We have very shallow breathing that it's not the best for it, especially when you're stressed out. Mm-hmm. So the breath that I do during these breath classes, we breathe actively for about an hour, I want to say. And yeah, it's an entire hour. And we also do breath holds during the event. Yeah, so it involves breath holds, active breathing. It's usually a 3-stage breath, or like it involves you fill up your belly first, because you can actually fill up air in your belly and then your lungs. Yeah. As humans too, especially women, we've been trained to oftentimes like suck in. Like, you're not supposed to make your belly look big because that's just how society's told us to be, but it's actually not the best for you. So we actively breathe in. A lot of times I'm like my stomach, my lungs, and then you breathe out. And you do that very, very fast. And different types of breath work like this can cause you to go into different nervous systems, like your parasympathetic or your sympathetic. I think the one that I do, since it's very intense, gets you in your sympathetic, but it also just releases certain things in your body. Like, I'll get tetany, my hands will clamp up. During these breath classes, like, people will just start, like, I often laugh or I cry. Like, you'll just hear me burst out freaking laughing, and it's not like, it's releasing stuff. I tell people all the time, I feel like it's therapy, except you don't have to talk. Your body just, it's a feeling that when you let go of something, you're like, oh my gosh, coming out of it, you feel so much better. I personally, I say this all the time, and I've done my fair share of drugs, I'll be open. Not anymore, but I have. I tell people all the time, like, it's like you're on drugs, but you're not on drugs. I see things, I get feelings. Oftentimes, I get visions or thoughts that something I've been stressing about now for like weeks, all of a sudden the answer is clear to me. Like, in that moment, during the breath work or after, I get so much reassurance from that. And that's why we're going to have Gianni and Kiki on here to kind of discuss what's actually going on in your body. But in a spiritual sense too, I'm just like, I just get so much clarity from it. And it's helped me regulate my nervous system so much. It's helped me have faith. It's helped me get guidance in my life. So I'm forever grateful for it. But yeah, super active, like, breath work. And I took my friend that was visiting me from Chicago to one of these classes too. They talk about Wim Hof. You can Google him and do some of his exercises. But I want people to know, yes, I'm fortunate enough to have these classes out here. Google them. Maybe you have some by you, but you can also do it at home. And it's all about, like, it's not easy, don't get me wrong, but how much do you want to be the best version of yourself? How much do you want to impact and feel lighter after? He even said during the class, sometimes you got to go through it to get through it. Like, release it. This is a safe space. Do it all. And when you get out, you're going to feel 10 times better.
Does Gianni have like a YouTube channel? Or
yeah, he does. I think it's Retro Space. Yeah, we'll link it in some of the stuff, but beautiful. Phenomenal. It's like I said, Google anything about breath work and stuff. It's just been so, and not everybody, I feel like it's such a drastic change in their life, but for me, it's just been amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really excited for you to try it. It's scary, definitely. When your hands clamp up, you're like, what's going on? But the beauty of it is you just, the second you stop, you go back to normal. Yeah. You know, so I'm like, it's the safest way to experience like a different feeling and a different like things going on in your mind without being like, I can't get out of it, because you can. It's just you. Agreed. So I would love for people to try that. Another thing too we can kind of talk about, because you did it before coming here, was like cold plunging. Oh gosh. Has that been beneficial for you at all? Because I know you do it. You got in like a pro today.
I got in like a pro today, and I'm pretty sure I splashed your...
No, you completely drenched my neighbors. On the balcony.
That was so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. So anyways, but no, I did a cold plunge today, and it was nice. It was a good reset. And I only did it for about 3 minutes max.
Yeah, probably about 3 minutes. Yeah,
so I mean, which is, very,
give yourself some credit for that. Yeah, don't downplay things. I'm always like, cheer yourself on 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes
in the 50-degree water. Like,
I don't know.
no.
I like my 8-minuters. I usually do 8 to 10 and be fine. But anyways,
I'm proud of people who get in and want to do like 2 minutes, because I told you, most people when they come over and I try to get them in, they freak out at first. And I'm like, you can do it because you can.
Because it's such a shock to the system,
Yeah,
right?
completely.
But it's really good too to be able to just sit and like it truly is the ultimate hard reset.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed cold plunges are, if you have the ability to have access to one or can afford to have one, I recommend having it. They now make them accessible.
Yeah. There are a lot of spas now, and I know.
Spas and even just you can get them on Amazon. Just the little blow up one that you have is fantastic with the little machine that runs it. It's
that was beautiful. A little the ones, it's the chiller itself that makes it a little pricey. But yeah, definitely. Like if you just pour ice in your bathtub and see what it does for you. They also have different, thankfully now, gyms that offer it, or different types of, like I said, spas, like wellness centers out here, definitely. But try it. Like go buy a few bags of ice, put it in your bathtub and see what it does.
Yes.
And then decide if you want to spend money on it, because the benefits are absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. No. So yeah, it was good. It was hard. The breathing, that's the tricky part. I think that a lot of people really struggle with. When you're submerged like that, your body sort of goes into shock. Like you can't breathe. Like you actually have to really focus on making sure that you're putting air into your lungs. Cause it's just such a unique feeling.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, honestly, and it feels in a way, I don't want to say suffocating in a way, but it feels kind of like an extra 100 pounds is added to you, where you're just like, God, I gotta remind myself I have to actually take big inhales. So that was really. But
that's what I love about it too. Yeah. So besides it does have like physical positive things that it does to you, it influences the body great. It's really good for inflammation, which when you are in a sympathetic nervous system state, a lot of times your body is inflamed. You have that stress response going on, which causes inflammation. So the cold plunge actually, like, we use it in the hospitals too, like cold therapy to calm your nervous system and like stop your body from overheating, but also it's just really good for you. On top of that, like research I think has shown it naturally, once you get out, it releases, like it gives you a dopamine fix a little bit, just the chemical reaction that your body has to being submerged in cold water. So it has health benefits to it, definitely. I've heard it like helps you speed up your metabolism sometimes. I don't know, Google it, find out for yourself. But just that on your body, I noticed too, the recovery after exercise, which is what most athletes use it for, is amazing. But I like how you said it feels like you're kind of suffocating sometimes. And I don't want people to feel like they're suffocating. But if anything, when people get in the tub, I'm like, it makes you realize you can actually do things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It makes you realize, even though your body thinks that this is a stressful thing, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out, I might die, you are not going to. So many people are like, I get in that cold water with the intention of telling myself that I am capable of doing things that are uncomfortable for me. You know what I mean? And it also teaches you in a way to focus on your breath. Like, if all comes to worst too, guess what? In the cold plunge, you're not thinking about the stuff that you're stressed about either. You're thinking about how cold you are.
Yeah.
So get in, practice your breathing, convince yourself that you can do tough things because you just did. So those are all positive benefits to cold plunging. On top of it, once again, the physical effects that it has on the body, it's supposed to be really good for you.
Absolutely. And also too, on top of that, I know that when we kind of came up with this podcast topics, on top of cold plunge, you brought up something really interesting you use in the hospital.
Ooh.
And it's not cold plunge, but it's similar. So I just want you to kind of talk a little bit about that and why you use it, and whether or not like those sort of things can be used outside the hospital setting.
So I think probably what I brought up was the fact that we do use, besides the fact when you have a fever, obviously we want to like make you cold or whatnot. But when people are actually, there's something called hyperthermic shock, where the body does start to overheat because it's like a stress response to whatever injury you have going on in the moment. My first job ever was surgical trauma ICU. So we actually used it a lot with that, because when your nervous system is, and this is extremes once again, but when your nervous system is in haywire, your body is freaking out. Things aren't regulating the way that it's supposed to. So yeah, we use cold therapy. We put people on like we wrap around these like big mechanisms, and it's attached to a machine that makes them super, super cold. And we do that to help your body like self-regulate and get you out of this response that could, honestly, like I've seen people die from hyperthermic shock. Like their heart's racing so fast, the body doesn't know what's going on. And we're like racing to cool them down. So that just proves, if anything, how like chilling out in a way definitely helps. And the stress response does have a physical thing on your body. That's why with the trauma, it's a sudden event with the body. It's not used to. It's prolonged longer than it's supposed to. And that's why it's not good for you. We use that to calm down the inflammation in your body and the stress response. So that might have been what I was referring to.
Yes.
But if you look back to studies like this have been, I kind of Googled it briefly when I knew we were going to be talking about this a little bit. And there's been studies that date back all the way to like hundreds of years ago of them using cold water to help regulate nervous systems and like help with muscle recovery and stuff like that. So it's nothing new.
Yeah.
And once again, too, when we talked about before how we're trying to encourage more holistic therapies to calm us down and realize what we're capable of and that we don't need all these pills, like it's a great choice to use. So yeah, in the hospital, we use it. I personally now own a cold plunge and it's been so beneficial to me. I'm curious though, also in your line of work, what do you oftentimes recommend to your kiddos? I love how you call them kiddos. So your kiddos.
Yeah. My kiddos, we do a variety of things, art therapy is huge, so be able to de-stress, using your hands, tactile, anything is massive. So, oftentimes we'll have, fidget toys are big, and oh my gosh, do my adults love my fidget toys from the kids box. When I'm in sessions, I've literally had people sit there and like just fidget with something while talking to me, and I'm just like, I was like, a 6-year-old was using that before you, and it's in the best way possible, because it just proves that oftentimes like, that like toys like that and stuff have such a like an impact on being able to kind of hold that grounding space, to help with, stress regulation. So that is like definitely a big thing. Anything obviously, that you can do with, not only with your hands, but anything that it can do with the 5 senses is also huge. So I often will tell people, it's like, hey, so what do you smell this moment? Okay. What do you taste? What do you see? Like, and oftentimes that, taste and smell can be interesting because, like, obviously, like if you're in a therapy room, like you know what the smell is, and like,
but if anything, like, I think that's just encouraging, like, to be present in the moment and realize that like you're safe right now. You don't have to be freaking out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, but I'll tell people, it's like, what do you notice? What are 5 things you notice in the room? Yeah. And so when I had my office space, I had an entire shelf like just filled of like random like memorabilia of like things that I love. So I had like a Harry Potter shelf, and then like a Star Wars shelf, and just like a random Disney shelf with like a bunch of things on it, and trinkets and everything. So that was like really cool. And people would go out and like pick things out from it or whatever, and they
I'm huge on that too. I literally will tell my clients, I'm like, pick something that just reminds you every single day that like how fortunate you are, how great today is going to be, like reminds you of what you're working for. Because a lot of times if you're stressed out about work or something you're trying to create, when you have that reminder that brings you back to earth, something that you like looking at, you realize like what it's all worth it. You realize why you're doing it, and you're not stressed anymore, and you're like, it's also going to be worth it. I love what I'm doing, and that's why I'm pushing forward. So yeah, I love the little positive reminders. That's such a great one.
No, it is. And also too, anything that you can squeeze. People don't realize the importance of squeeze. And that's
the importance of, I love that.
The importance of the squeeze. But truly like being able to, not to plug Squishmallow, but I love you guys.
Those are the stuffed animals, right?
Yeah.
My sister has. They get big.
Yeah, they get big.
Oh my god, my sister has them, and she's in her like mid-20s. I love them.
No, they're so cute. Yeah, people collect them.
They make me happy.
Yeah. So I used to have Squishmallows in my office, and I would literally have people sit and squish them and just hold them like this. And they just. And you could sit and chat, like just holding one. It's the best thing ever. It's literally one of the best feelings ever. I might bring 2 Squishmallows in for our next set. We can just hold them.
I would. Oh my gosh, we should, because the next one that we're gonna do is kind of an emotional thing for me. You should bring a.
You should bring a I'll bring my Costco Squishmallows.
Oh my gosh, please!
It would fill up half the room, but it's fine.
But they'll make this is a happy trigger. Like, why not? Oh my gosh, I love that. I love all these quirky things so much. I just find you and your work so adorable, but also like life-changing at the same time, because it's just, you have to kind of act like a kid sometimes and go back to like the weird things that work. Who said you always have to be serious? If something's fun and it makes you feel better and it just makes you, once again, less stressed but happier, why not do it? I'm a big kid. You see me when we go on our hikes. I'm jumping on benches, like trying to climb up trees.
That's true.
I'm a child.
It's a little terrifying.
Honestly, people who do care about me get a little scared sometimes, I will admit. But I just say I'm short, so like if I fall, like I'm closer to the ground sometimes. I don't know. I just think I'm like, it's less surface area for me to get hurt. We're good.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But it's just so worth it. Like, act like a child. Another thing you haven't mentioned, but I want you to talk about, is you use virtual reality with your kids, right?
Yeah.
I think that is crazy technology these days, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I remember when we went on a hike and I started talking about virtual reality, and I came from like a very serious point on it too. Like it, you know, and there's both serious and like unserious ways to use virtual reality.
Completely.
But I'll talk about both. You know, one of like the more unserious things is like, at the end of a session, if a kid feels like, hey, I had like a really good day, or, you know, just wants to do it just because, we'll play a roller coaster. So I had an Oculus.
An Oculus?
An Oculus. So
what
Oculus it's like the virtual reality company, Oculus. It's from Facebook. And they are Meta now. I don't want to be sued. Anyways, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's from Meta. And then what I did is I just put these, you know, you put the goggles on, and then it would be attached to my phone. And then we could like, they could do like a roller coaster game or something. So it's like really cool. But then where I've actually used it for like a very impactful place was, you know, being able to, we would go and like like this app called Wander. And we would just like go to like random places throughout the world. And like, we would just go and like sit and like see like a restaurant on like a surfside beach town in like Costa Rica. Like, or you could just be at the top of Mount Everest if you wanted.
I was definitely peaceful in Costa Rica. I'll tell you.
You know, it's just like, you can go to these incredible places all over the world. If it's available on Google, like Google Maps, you can go to it, and you can go and you can be in the 360 photo, you know, that are available to you. So it was just really, really cool to be able to like use some of that technology. And so, you know, and then also too is like, I know that I actually tried it out on, someone that I just had known in my past. And I said, hey, like, I kind of want to try this out in like the world of therapy, but I don't want to use it from like therapeutic standpoint. I just want to see. And, you know, I talked to him, and he had told me about like a past trauma, where he had, his house had burned down. And so, and he said that like, it was still like very heavy for him to talk about and stuff. And like he and his family were fine, everything, but he lost his home. And so we ended up actually going on to the Wander, and he ended up showing me like the street view of his home and like what it looked like and like where he used to play. And he got emotional talking about it. But he said at the same time, he said it just like reminded him of all these incredible happy memories. He's like, I can't believe I'm like re-seeing this. He's like, it's one thing to see it on like Google Maps and stuff, and you just, you know, click around on a computer screen. But he goes, to be in that virtual reality of like physically turning around and like looking around you and seeing the home and seeing like the landscape and area around it. He said it was just like, whoa. He was like, wow, that was like such a beautiful experience. And so, you know, that also too is like something that has been so impactful in using it in that way, because you can sort of take you out of the element that you're in, you know, and being able to go back into places, you know, that maybe, you know, were harder, you know, to be a part of, you know, and like certain locations that might have brought back, you know, negative memories
or triggers,
or, you know, certain elevations. So that's like also was such an impactful part of using virtual reality, you know, with clients and stuff. It was just such a beautiful experience to witness and just be a part of, because you're connected to it too. You know, I saw everything that they saw on my cell phone. And so I just sit there and watch, and they would sit and talk to me about it, and that live screen would show everything that they saw. So it was just really, really cool to see.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm super excited for one to see how that is used, and like And obviously don't go to like childhood homes or like stressful situations by yourself. Like that could be bad. But I'm so curious because now they're experimenting with other things to essentially have people relive their traumas or an uncomfortable experience while knowing they're in a safe place and kind of being able to disassociate from the event itself to see it in a different point of view. So I'm so curious to see. I love that you're using that. I am so curious to see how it expands a little bit more in the psych world with different therapies and stuff like that. But I think that could potentially be a huge breakthrough for people because a lot of times you realize a situation based on how you saw it in the moment. But if you go back and you try to like see it from an outside view, you might see it completely differently and realize that it might still be as bad. Don't get me wrong. Like your feelings are valid, but you might also see it from a different perspective and realize certain things you didn't see before. Yeah. So I love that. And I also love how you used it to do like great things to make people feel happy in the moment. Like you said, going to Mount Everest, going to Costa Rica, because I'm also the person, you know me, I'm huge on meditation. Like we've talked about, I'm huge on visualizations. I think that there's so much to get from like raising your energy. And oftentimes when they say is like, if you want to raise your energy and attract better things to you, you have to already vibrate at that frequency. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll close my eyes and envision myself in the house that I want to be in or the area I want to be in, the trip I want to go on, the friends and like the relationship that I want to bring my frequency up. And most of the time when I visualize it and feel it after, I'm like, yes, man, I'm excited for life. Like, this is great. It's coming. You know what I mean? So I love how you can give that visual to people I do think people should still sit and be creative and learn how to harness that within them. But that's a great therapeutic way to let the kids experience something different and bring up their energy levels and their vibration.
And it's also a great way to use. And I did try this once with another client as well. And that was an adult client. And we used it for meditation. That was so cool. So there are certain meditation apps within virtual reality now that are like access to the public you can just use. And so I couldn't remember the app that I had used for it, but it was so cool because they ended up sitting in like a 360 theater pretty much. And it was just like, the best way to describe it is like the Sphere in Las Vegas. If you've ever seen like the inside of the Sphere in Vegas, like the videos of it, it's like the same concept where you just kind of sit in a chair and there's 360 screens all around you. And it's just one giant screen, but it was really cool because it would just play these like ambient sounds and then it would have all these designs float. And I think that was really cool because, it's awesome because I have ADHD. And when I have to sit down and try to meditate, my mind, no pun intended, wanders. Like I literally I have a hard time actually being able to sit down and focus. So for me, I love it because I can sit with it and I can just actually really just focus on sort of the designs that are really sitting there. And it's very calming and then having that ambient sound play in the background is just really cool. So that's just another incredible way to be able to use that technology. At home too, if you're just someone that's just like, man, I just need to like de-stress and sort of unplug from the world for a little bit. Such a fantastic way to be able to try like something new.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing. It's a new way of doing something that's been around for ages. Like once again, meditation has been around forever. And I hear that all the time. Like it's hard. It's like our minds race so fast. It's crazy. Even though I actually heard you can only have one thought at a time, but then you just switch the thought so frequently. But even when I first started meditating, it was my earpods in on the silent mode. Like it was definitely guided meditation. And then as you get into it, like you do the stepping stones, right? You do the thing that's easier for you and you realize you can let go. You realize that you can get engrossed in like this different reality in a way, and not everything outside of you has to influence you all the time. From there, you can also, I encourage people, then you realize you can let go of your mind in this amazing like space that you're seeing and hearing. Try to do it yourself then too, move to the earpods. Now you heard me. I was just playing some ambient music while still hearing the chaos from outside and you doing your thing. And I was the most blissful person. I'm like, I just felt like I was floating right before we came to this podcast. So I love that because it's stepping stones to have people like harness the energy to do it themselves, but it also gives you the same effect too. Yeah. So you might as well do it. I was even telling you, I'm like, meditation, I get where it's hard. And that's why I'm like, I love that they have this because what I get from it, I'm like, if I could put it in a bottle and give it to all these people, that would be amazing. Yeah. Because I just feel so happy and blissful after.
Truly, truly. No. And I think that that's like something that so many people strive to have, but struggle with finding ways to like sort of have it in a way. So being able to do what you talked about, I think is so important. And it's finding those moments that, you know, what does that bliss look like for you? Feeling those moments and recognizing when you are having those moments, what can we do to make sure that we're keeping those moments alive?
Yeah.
And that is so important. So like people say like, shoot, if it's simply just walking down the street and, you know, or just like being able to just, you go outside.
Never underestimate the power of a good walk.
Oh my
Seriously.
God, truly. And, you know, I understand that, you know, like even if walks are, you know, hard for people to do sometimes, you know, that's okay. Just being able to just simply sit outside, having that natural air, something fresh, something new, you know, maybe some people, I tell you what, I talk about like the ultimate bliss, and it's totally left field. Going to comedy shows are like such a blissful thing for me.
That's so funny you said that though, because you know how Justine was here visiting me?
Yes.
She literally was like, and oh my God, I'm trying to say it so nicely, but she's like, she's been a little sad lately. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that. And she's just like, they just make me laugh, and I like things that make me laugh these days. She's like, yeah, I want to go because that's my type of therapy. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the power of laughter is so healing in a way. And it was just so fun to just sit. And I came out a new person. I was just like, it was 11:30 at night. I should have been really tired. You know, I had just gone off at like a 4-hour flight, but it literally, in those moments when you get to be with a group of people and just laugh like nonstop and without judgment laughing, like that is just one of the best feelings in the world. So yeah, no, that was
no, completely. And that's the thing. Some people don't even realize these things where they're like, wow, that actually just does help me chill out. I feel like once again, we're in the rat race and just this constant circle of events occurring in our life where we don't actually take time to step back and be like, me doing this little thing for myself right now is going to have such a huge impact on the future. And it's like, it's going to make me feel better right now. That's all I really want people to get from this, is realizing that this stuff is available to you. You just have to remind yourself to go after it and get it. You just have to remind yourself to do the things. Because once you start making that a habit to take care of yourself, it's just another part of your everyday life, and you're going to be filled with more laughter and happiness and energy and joy. Like, it is possible. You just have to believe it is and make a conscious effort to do the things for yourself.
Truly. And I think that having that power in your hands that we talked about. And then also too, is that, you know, the verses, I know we discussed a little bit about this topic as well. And it's something that's so big, I want to get in with you. Holding that power with yourself versus someone else. And I think that that was such a huge thing that we talked about, because it came from that perspective of like creating that happiness for yourself.
Because the way I see it is that, don't get me wrong, you hope that people who are in your life are good for you forever, essentially, and they stay forever. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. People grow, people change. And the problem is when you rely on somebody else for your own happiness, you are putting pretty much all the power in their hands. That means that they can take away your happiness at any second. And I'm sorry, I don't want anybody to have that power over me. The power of my happiness, what? So that's a lot of pressure to leave on somebody. Like, you're the reason why I am happy. No, that's not okay. I'm also convinced too that regardless of what that person does for you, you're never actually truly going to be happy. Happiness has to come from you.
Yeah. And I think that people can like give you a sense of happiness. I think people can totally give you, and like, especially if you have that partner or that special someone in your life, maybe it's a parent or, you know, a loved one or a sibling or whoever, maybe a best friend, right? That gives you that sense of support and love, and therefore quote unquote gives you happiness, which we're totally agree with. That being said, like you talked about before, to make that your anchor can be dangerous.
No, completely.
Right? Because when we use that as quote unquote our only coping mechanism to find that happiness, to find that quote also de-stress, right? We rely on that to the point where if it was no longer available to us,
you lose your identity.
We lose who we are.
Yeah.
And that is so massive, to be able to make sure we're not losing that and finding ways to make sure we're not losing that.
No, completely.
And so I think that, you know, like we obviously talked about a lot of different ways to make sure like we're not like that, you're not going to lose that. But I think the two thing is that, but the thing I go back to is that at the end of the day, you know, what works, you know, for just the average person to be able to make sure that they are living their life to the fullest, but then also making sure that they're living their life in a form of what I like, oh my gosh, trying to find the words for this, like building that concrete foundation for yourself and yourself only, without needing the ability to rely on others to make sure that that concrete foundation stays solid.
Yeah. And I think that genuinely also does involve, but knowing yourself, you know, and that's what all these different things that we've kind of recommended to people, in my opinion, a lot of these go down to like who you are as a person and what works for you, and discovering things that work for you, and having the confidence in yourself that you can do this for yourself and not for anybody else, or rely on anybody else to do it for you. I feel like a lot of the things we talked about do go in there. On that note too, I would love to have another episode based on like how, in a way, you can try to find your own identity if you've lost it. Because I know we both spoke about this. Like, there was a point where I was like, I have no idea who the hell I am anymore. Like, I lost something that I really identified with. So I definitely think that's valuable. And in regards to that too, when it comes to using people for happiness, it's never going to work, because once again, like that's a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. And don't get me wrong, I do also agree relationships and friendships are meant to build you up, but they're meant to like make your foundation stronger and encourage you to do better. And unfortunately, a lot of times when you're grasping to somebody for that happiness, they might not be if they recognize it, they might not be the person also pushing you to do better either. A lot of times they're kind of getting their needs met too by being a provider. On that note, also, I remember telling you with a conversation when it comes to money, you know how I said money makes you more of who you are. So if you're depressed when you have money, you're just going to be more depressed. If you're a happy person when you have money, it's just going to make your world insane. That's why I want to be wealthy, is because when I'm wealthy, everybody around me is wealthy and more abundant. That's how I feel like you can also apply it to friends. You know, like friends should just make you more of who you are. Because guess what? If you're relying to somebody for your happiness, yes, they might give you little dopamine fixes, but I guarantee you that you know subconsciously you're relying on that person, which might make you a little bit more sad inside. Yeah. Where when you are around people, when you're true within yourself, you usually attract people who are still within themselves too. Yep. And you guys are just going to build each other up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I love that. You know, a big thing too is like, just to go off that, you know, quickly, is that one of the biggest things too that that you had mentioned, that people have come to me in the therapeutic office and said, I don't know how to like do this without XYZ. I don't know what I'm gonna like. I'm trying to think. Oh my God, biggest one. I literally had this happen a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what I'm going to do with my mom when I go to I don't know what I'm going to do without my mom when I go to college. Ooh. And I was like, oh, so
that's
valid.
A problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, but it's also so valid, right?
No, it's
like,
completely,
you know, it's like when you're like, oh my God, you're going to go off on your own for your first time. And, you know, and your mom has been your rock since day one, right? You've had her for 18 years. Of course you're scared. Of course you're nervous. Absolutely. And we have those people in our life who have that strong foundation. And I remember talking to them about finding ways to sort of, you know, what are some things that make you you? Yeah. Right. But they can't be people related. Yeah. Like it can't be a person. It has to be things that like you love just for you. So, you know, we talked about certain hobbies. We talked about their love for certain TV shows. We they had a huge fascination with like robotics and stuff. So it's like things like that I was like, okay, those are things that you have. Like those are things that only you have, not your mom has. Those aren't your mom's identity things. Those are your identity things. So going back to that, it comes back to being able to, all right, so when you no longer then turn, you know, quote unquote, have those people in your life to be able to rely on all the time, what can you do to rely on? You have those fallbacks. You have those things that really kind of, quote unquote, then we talked about being able to help build that foundation is so huge. So I love that.
Yeah. And I definitely get where like that's a completely valid fear or completely valid thought, to be honest with you. But when you do talk to people, somebody who knows themselves, I feel like they'll be able to be talked down from that like stress response or that trigger or that like not serving thought very fast. They'll be like, oh, I do have a lot going on. You know what I mean? Like we're human. It's okay to have that thought as long as it's not debilitating.
Correct.
To the point when you realize and you're sitting there and you actually are like, oh my gosh, I have nothing outside of this person. That's going to be an issue. If you have no like life skills and you wouldn't know how to survive without that person, that's when we're like, we need to get to like you. We need you to be curious and want to learn for yourself, want to expand for yourself. But no, like, I get that, man. I love my friends. I don't want to lose them, but like I have faith that that's not going to happen. And I know that if they were, I'll still be okay. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be scary if something, God forbid, does happen to somebody. Like I'll have that thought, but you have faith in yourself when you do know yourself that it's all going to work out. It's going to be okay.
Truly.
Yeah, because you know you're going to take the steps and you know what you enjoy and you're like, I'm going to figure out anyways.
I love it.
So yeah,
absolutely.
I guess kind of to end this episode then maybe, like I said, let's just encourage people, like, please be curious. Please like get to know yourself. Please realize that all this stuff is accessible to you if you believe it is. Yeah. I don't like the word can't. It's either I won't or I haven't yet. Yeah. Be the person who wants to learn and do better for themselves.
Absolutely. And be brave doing it.
Yes, be brave.
Be so brave doing it.
And realize why you're doing it. Absolutely. It's for you. You know, you're the most important person to yourself. You should be.
Yeah. Consistently keep trying new things.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
Definitely.
Through all of this.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Love you guys.